closing out a fantastic week at the International Manufacturing Technology Show here in Chicago, Illinois at McCormick Place. It has been a week of all kinds of new technology, meeting new people, seeing 12,000 students come through the Smartforce Student Summit this week, 1 million attendees, give or take, here at the International Manufacturing Technology Show, and over 2,000 exhibitors offering 15,000 different technologies. We have learned so much, and we are not done yet. We have just a great guest here with us this afternoon, somebody who has spent an entire career in and around manufacturing, has tremendous knowledge, tremendous insights on what's going on the education side, on the skills, on the shortage of skilled workforce here in the CNC space, on the manufacturing technology side. It's my great honor and pleasure to welcome to the Tech Ed Podcast Andy McNamara. Andy is the Director of Sales for DN Solutions America. Andy, thanks for being on.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, we're looking forward to learning about all kinds of things, learning about your career, your insights on what's going on in the world of manufacturing. Just start out, though, for our listeners who may not be completely familiar with DNSA and your history. I think once you tell it, a lot of folks will figure out how you fit into the mix here. So tell us about DNSA and the background of the business.
Happy to. So DN Solutions America, which was formerly Doosan Machine Tools America, probably many more people would know by that name.
Sure.
And it was recently changed in July of 2022.
Oh, really recent?
Yeah, very recent. We were acquired by DTR Automotive, which is a private company.
Okay.
Manufacturing of automotive components for the big three and global company. So actually the interesting point of the name and how DN Solutions came about really takes you back to the beginning of Doosan even, but a combination of Doosan and the new company DTR. And that is Doosan originated as Daewoo Machine Tools.
Okay.
Out of Korea.
Got it.
And over the years, that's well over 40 years ago.
Wow.
They've been together and manufacturing machine tools. Daewoo was then acquired eventually by Doosan.
Okay.
And specifically Doosan Infracore, which is part of an absolutely huge conglomerate based out of Korea. And eventually we were sold off to private company.
Okay.
DTR Automotive.
Got it. And if folks aren't familiar with what Doosan is or was, machine tool builder, talk a little bit about the products and solutions.
Sure. So what's now DN Solutions, we build basically machining centers and turning centers and about 400 different models.
Wow.
We're one of the largest producers, and actually by units, we're top number one in the world.
Wow.
By dollars, we're number 3 in the world.
Okay.
So we're manufacturing approximate up to about 1,500 machines per month.
Wow, 1,500 a month.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Where are those manufactured?
All in Korea.
Okay.
Yep.
Fascinating. So now you have the role of director of sales for what could be arguably the largest machine tool builder in the world, based on units as you suggest, and number 3 in dollars. So huge company, pretty big job, right? You got the director of sales job. Tell us about that. What keeps you busy?
A lot of responsibility. So DNSA, which is DN Solutions America, is responsible for the Americas. So
okay.
Sales and service of our products here in the Americas. So I'm responsible for the sales side of it, distributor management, all the management decisions, working with the distributors, working with the customers, especially this week here at IMTS.
Yeah, how has IMTS been for you this week?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge, yeah. The first 3 days I can speak to. We'll see how today turns out, but the first 3 days were incredible. I think they exceeded our expectations coming in. Following COVID, we really weren't sure where it was going to go.
Right.
Comparing to 2018, which was a record year in attendance and exhibitors, it was kind of an open question,
Yep.
what was going to happen.
Right, yeah, and I think a lot of people were asking that question, and I think there's some exhibitors that maybe decided to take the wait-and-see approach and let everybody else come back here for 2022 and see what happens, and I'm telling you, those people made a mistake. I mean, It's just been the excitement here, the level of energy, the attendees, the new technologies, and we're going to talk with you about that in a little bit. It's just been such an exciting week, and I think anybody who either decided not to attend or decided not to exhibit, boy, when 2024 rolls around, get your reservations in, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, for us, it was an easy decision. We're right up front. We've got a fantastic booth. In fact, we upgraded. We moved up a booth size. We took advantage of.
I walked by the booth. Yeah, it's huge.
People,
yeah.
and so there was no question. We left our money in when the time was there and said, "Let's roll with it."
Yep.
And that's what we did. And we believe it to be a really good decision.
Yeah, no, there's no question, and I think from the exhibitors that we're talking to this week, they're all saying exactly the same thing. It was a question mark. We were, IMTS Spark 2 years ago. We were all sitting at our computers, and it feels great to be back with everybody in person, and all the feedback we've gotten from attendees and exhibitors alike has been extremely, extremely positive. You and I are sitting here as part of the FANUC booth at the Smartforce Student Summit. I know that your organization has a relatively new and exciting relationship with FANUC Education. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So over the last 2 years, in working, we're FANUC's #1 customer in the world as far as CNC controls.
CNC controls.
We're
incredible.
#1. And so obviously we have a very close relationship with FANUC America, FANUC Japan. And we were approached by FANUC saying, we'd like to do more with the education of the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And how can we get together? How can we think about getting together and doing better and trying to educate the kids, give them packages that are relevant to what they're going to find in the industry,
mm-hmm.
and so they can be educated on machines that really help them when they get into the industry and excite them to make it part of, to make it a fun trade.
Absolutely, yeah. If there's a theme that we're hearing from all of the folks that we're talking to this week, it's about those hands-on experiences, getting authentic manufacturing technology in the classroom, in the technical education lab, letting students interact with it, learn on it, understand that these careers, they're not for everybody. No career is, right? But they're for a lot of people, and we really have to do a better job. And I think we're getting better at it, reaching out to these students and showing them the just incredible careers that exist in the world of manufacturing. Because from what we're hearing in the marketplace, the shortage of skilled talent in the CNC world is nowhere near being filled. And are you hearing the same thing from your clients? Are people having a hard time finding skilled talent?
Oh yeah. In fact, on many sales calls, we kind of joke about it because it can happen in more than once in a day where we walk into a shop and talk about a possible purchase of a machine tool, and the customer will say something like, "If you can find me operators, I'm happy to buy more equipment."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really the tough part right now, is coming up with skilled operators or operators that are just open to the trade.
Right.
As I grew up, I worked in machine shops myself.
Right.
And for me, it fit right in. But people have a view of it as maybe not being a clean trade, or the old view of dangerous, dirty old machine shops.
Exactly.
Nothing like that.
Oh, it's not at all. In fact, our daughter, who's going to be a third-year student in college, she just started her third year in college, worked at a precision machining company all summer, and was exposed to great people in manufacturing. But one of the observations that we knew she would have, and we kind of set her up for it, was she's like, it is just amazing how clean this is. It's well lit. The floors are beautiful and polished, and it, to your point, and I spent 25 years in manufacturing. I've been in and out of a lot of manufacturing plants, and I have seen a lot of them, or at least a number of them, that I would not have wanted to work at. Right. Those are still around, but they're fewer and further between, and I think the vast majority of manufacturing companies, and especially machining companies, contract machining companies, OEMs that are operating machines and so on, have really started to understand the value of 5S, of keeping a manufacturing plant organized, keeping it clean, so that it's the kind of place that you want to go and work every day. And I know that's what you see every day when you're walking through the machining companies and manufacturers of America.
Right. Yeah. One thing something that's interesting to me, and how do you get kids to take or want to take the path? Certainly, many kids want to grow up, they want to be an engineer. Right. But they're not ready for college, as I wasn't at that time.
Sure.
Finished later in my life.
Great.
And so a path through machine shop or machine shops manufacturing really gives them a better appreciation for what the machine tools do and how to make things and they immediately grasp to that. It's a great path towards even further education, if should they choose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Or
and
a
there's
great
just
trade.
nothing. Yeah,
Sorry.
there's nothing better than being able to look back over your shoulder at the end of a day's work and see a pallet of parts, a container of parts, being able to say, I made that. And my kids probably got tired of me saying when I was in the world of manufacturing and we were driving around and I'd be like, and I was in the paint fixture business for a long time, or for a number of years anyway. And, we'd look at a utility truck and it's like, yeah, that's painted on our tooling. Motorcycle would go by, that's painted on our tooling. A GM vehicle would go by, that's painted on our tooling. And you really, you get an appreciation for literally everything around us, of course, is manufactured, and just about all of it is affected by machining in some way. So that there is just tremendous pride working in the factories and the shops and the plants around America, and certainly you see that firsthand as I do. As you're working with your employers, and you just mentioned that they tell you, yeah, we'll buy another machine tool, but you got to find us the operator. Have you seen some creative solutions to getting people excited about careers in manufacturing and giving them the skills they need to be successful?
Well, actually, at DN Solutions, we've teamed up and sponsored Titans of CNC.
Okay, sure.
Over
Titan
the last
Gilroy.
2
Yeah.
years. Yeah,
Okay.
Titan Gilroy, and he's really doing some great things.
He
I mean,
is.
he has such a following. His educational academy is incredible. The way it's set up you have everything you need to just kick back in your own house, go ahead and program a part, and see how it all comes together. And in fact, working through the FANUC resellers and with the program I mentioned earlier, we're now putting these packages that have their package to work with Titan's educational package,
Sure.
or just simple packages that small shops, or large shops for that matter, maybe even more large shops, can put together an apprentice program
Mm-hmm.
and put less expensive machines aside
Sure.
and teach their people how to operate them while they're not producing parts in the factory, and just kind of a secondary location
For
within
sure.
the factory.
Yeah, and Titan's got such an amazing background as well. I mean, he spent some time in prison, if I'm correct. I saw him speak and met him in Indianapolis. It's probably been about 4 or 5 years now,
Yeah.
and just listening to his story and his path and where he started, got himself into trouble, got out. It's really a great example of. We talk a lot about students getting excited about careers in CNC and wanting to get our high school students and our technical college students the skills they need to be successful. But those aren't the only pathways to these types of careers. We have ex-offenders who have paid their debt to society and are learning new skills and coming out of incarceration with skills they can put to work with family supporting jobs. They can support themselves right away. We have dislocated workers, so more and more people that are leaving things like retail or hospitality, which are different career paths, and coming to manufacturing or maybe coming to distribution, but needing to learn these new skills. And so machining is really it's a career path for just about anybody who has an interest in working with their hands, who has an interest in interacting with really, really awesome technology. If you're talking to younger people and people of all ages, Andy, about the types of careers that exist in the world of CNC, why should somebody consider a career in your market?
Well, we're always going to need to manufacture components. So machining is although it's changing and going through many different technologies that are being developed with additive and that. These days, it's a great evolving direction and path, and it's very much in line with engineering. Excellent if you're simply happy with manufacturing or machining as a job. It's a great paying, excellent job, and where you come away with some appreciation, as you alluded to earlier. With the end of the day, you actually made something, and when you look at a component on a car or an airplane or whatever, you can say, "Oh, now I know how to make that."
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people don't appreciate that till they've gone ahead and done it, and then you typically get locked into this industry
Right.
quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get locked in a really, really good way, and you kind of fall in love with it. Do you do the same thing that I do when you're out on a trip or you're traveling around? Do you have that habit of pointing at things and saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
our machine tool made that"? Or what are some examples?
Yeah, I definitely do that. I do it enough to probably get my wife to make fun of me about
Right.
it occasionally, and certainly my daughter does too. I don't know that any particular example comes up, but I mean, I know that's how I got into it in the first place. I ripped apart a motorcycle engine. I needed a ring for a piston that no one made
Okay.
anymore.
Yeah.
And one of our neighbors was a machinist, and he went ahead and fixed the piston so I could get a standard ring to fit it. So just an example of that. I was amazed by that.
Well, absolutely, and an example of how it really sparked your interest in a really, really cool career pathway, and it really speaks to the importance of these experiences that we're giving to young people through the new partnership that you have with FANUC and so on. You mentioned additive. You mentioned a couple. Newer technologies, and one of the things I love about being here at the International Manufacturing Technology Show is just walking through it's immense. And we tell people, if you haven't been here, if you've never been to McCormick Place, if you've never been to IMTS, it really is almost impossible to put into words how many different 2,000 exhibitors here that are showing all kinds of amazing technology. So as you look to the future of CNC, obviously we've already evolved from manual machining to CNC controls, of course, and you being the largest distributor, the largest integrator rather of FANUC controls, and FANUC being the largest industrial control company in the world. What are some of the other technologies that you're seeing emerging in the world of CNC and in the world of manufacturing, Andy, that we should have on our radar?
Well, certainly in our case, the focus is machining centers and turning centers. So there's a lot of different steps. Obviously, with as we've discussed at length here, the lack of labor, how hard it is to get people to work in this country, we're seeing a lot more requirements for cobots and robots. But even before that, everything needs to be automated these days.
Right.
So if you were to come to the DNSA booth, you'd see a lot of palletization. You'd see now what used to be maybe a single level pallet changer now with multi-level pallet changer. And the whole idea is to keep the jobs queued up, reduce the setup time, and be able to let the machine operate 24/7 if required. And some of that brings the technology of the scheduling software, integrating the scheduling software with your ERP system, and things like that.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that fascinate me. And as you think about the challenges we're having currently in the supply chain, and I know your customers and your clients are certainly not immune to those, and nor is any manufacturer. That making sure the absolute value of machine uptime, and making sure that when we do have material and when we do have an individual standing in front of that piece of equipment, if even we do anymore, and sometimes we don't, making sure that we're absolutely maximizing the uptime of a machine tool or any manufacturing technology is so very important. And so many of the technologies we're seeing on offer here at IMTS are doing exactly that. Whether, to your point, it's setting up orders or jobs to run before they run, so that you can slide them right into the machine tool and run without having to shut the machine down for a long time to perform setup or to perform changeover. Really, really good example. So many of the smart technologies. I spoke at the Modern Machine Shop's Top Shops Expo on I think it was Tuesday of this week. I delivered the keynote address there, and we just talked about, you think about a machine tool. I argued that it's probably, in terms of the density of data that is coming off of any single manufacturing piece of manufacturing equipment, I don't know that there's another piece of manufacturing equipment that can deliver more data on speeds and feeds and material condition and temperature and tool condition and cycle time, all this stuff that can be gathered in real time. I've got to believe that these so-called Industry 4.0 technologies are alive and well at DNS as well.
Oh, absolutely,
Yep.
yes. Yeah, we've put together software. It's not released as yet, but something that we call iDo. And it's really a remote and data gathering software. So these days, with data mining and large data requirements of customers, as you've said, if you're creating that, if you're making that component and going through that manufacturing process, it's really important to extract the data from there, and to whether it be tool life data or uptime, all that you can make decisions, database decisions. On
Absolutely.
that
And
output.
we're surrounded here by all these FANUC robots, of course, by virtue of where we're sitting, and people, it blows their mind. You look at a 7-axis FANUC robot, and whether it's the one that's sitting next to you or the huge one up on the floor that's lifting a Corvette into the air, all using exactly the same technology. But those robots are to the point where they can predict their own future failure and order their own replacement parts,
Right.
and which just blows you away. And we've deployed that technology. We had David Aguirre on yesterday. He's an IIoT technician from a technical college in southern southeast Wisconsin, talking about how he has taken his every single one of his robo drills, every single one of he's got some Haas machining centers there. He's got they have some Doosan's as well. And they've got those communicating up through gateways and OPC UA and up to the up to the cloud level and gathering data in real time. He pings every one of those pieces of equipment every single minute, and he can gather all that information that we just talked about. Now you start thinking about the power of artificial intelligence and machine learning in predicting the future and avoiding things that we don't want to see happen. And I've got to believe that that same logic is happening, and in fact I know it is in the machining world,
Right.
where we start to think about predictive analytics and never having any downtime, which for an old manufacturing guy, it's hard to say that I am one, but I'm turning into one. In the old school of manufacturing, the idea that you could predict the future with that level of precision and then avoid a problem, replace a part before it ever happened. And we really are living in amazing times in American manufacturing, aren't we?
Right. We are, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed, yeah.
So one last question for you, Andy, before we sign off here at IMTS, and it's a question that we ask every single guest here on the Tech Ed podcast. And as much as we've got a lot of young people that listen to learn about new technologies in manufacturing, to learn about this amazing world that we're talking about, artificial intelligence and machine learning and so on, as you look back on what's clearly been an amazing career, and as you and I were talking, you've had some incredible jobs with some really, really well-known companies. Tell us, if you had one piece of advice for a high school sophomore as they kind of think about the rest of their life, what would that piece of advice be?
Actually, it would be the same as when I look back at the path that I took. I would say you have to be happy in what you do, and you have to like what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you like what you do every day, it's no longer a job. I know this is a very common one, but I think it's nothing more true, because if you like what you're doing, you're going to work harder at it, and that'll open many more doors for you in many other directions that you can't see right off the bat. But as soon as you get into that field, I'm locked into this field.
Right.
But I never thought I'd be in sales. I thought I'd be an applications engineer
Sure.
for the rest of my life. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the best job I ever had.
Yeah, was it?
So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is interesting. I think the last time I felt like I was going to work was probably the late 1990s, and a couple situations in my work life that weren't perfect, and everybody has, right?
Sure.
And there were probably a year or two there where I was like, oh, this isn't the greatest period of my life, but from then until now, I haven't felt like I went to work a single day, because I love
Right.
what I do. I love making a difference in the same way that you do. I love interacting with clients. I love being here at IMTS. And to your point, when you love what you do, you never really have to go to work. You just go and do the things that you enjoy
Right,
doing, and,
right.
and that's exactly what you've been up to.
You hear too many people, being pushed in the college route and not even deciding that they like the course structure that they're taking, and after that they've got all that debt and don't have any clue as to where they're going. So it's almost like they're back to square one. I like the other approach. Get into something, find what you love, and then if school's in the future for that, and that makes it more the road you want to go, you're going to ace school. And
Right.
that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's the way it worked for me.
Perfect.
I aced it because at that time I loved it.
Yeah, you went back for something you knew you wanted to do. You really were. You could see that next step in your career pathway. It wasn't
Absolutely.
just, somebody told me I'm supposed to be at college, and so that's where I went. You went for a specific reason and performed well.
It was a step that made sense. Next place to go, and
Yep.
so
And
that was great.
I think we're seeing that evolution actually in the world of education these days. We certainly have a long way to go yet, but I think we are finally turning the corner on people understanding that yeah, you can have an incredible, well-paying career in our case in the world of manufacturing or in the world of CNC machining. You can support your family. It's intriguing. It's interesting, and it opens up options for you. It's
Absolutely.
not having no options is graduating from college with $100,000 of debt in a career field that doesn't have jobs in it. Right? That's having no options, and having options is all about graduating from high school. Maybe going direct to workforce, maybe going to technical college, not having all that debt, and then working for a company that'll pay you to take whatever your next step is in your career pathway. So it's been great listening about your career, hearing about your career pathway, Andy, learning a little bit more about DN Solutions America. You're doing great work. You're reaching out to students. You're making the world a better place. We really appreciate you spending some time with us on the Tech Ed Podcast.
Well, thank you very